Hi, everyone, and welcome to the AwardsWatch Podcast. I'm your host this week, Erik Anderson, and I remembered that this time because the last time I forgot to introduce myself, which is really kind of par for the course when you are accelerating in age and bored over the summer. But our boredom has been cured because we have Venice and Toronto Film Festival lineups, which has put aside the first 6 months of the year and has us now focusing on the second 6 months. So we are going to talk about what's premiering where, designations, and the ever important aspect that those bring to the festivals, and a little bit of Oscar talk in between, as this information definitely moves the puzzle pieces around a little bit. And it is an editors only podcast once again. And I have with me executive editor Ryan McQuade
What's up, everybody?
and associate editor Sophia Ciminello.
Hi, guys.
Okay, let's just dive in so that we aren't here for 4 hours and 18 minutes.
Like Naiad.
Previous podcast. Yes, dive in just like Naiad, and we're going to keep swimming all the way to the Taj Mahal.
Hell yeah.
It's kind of crazy because we have TIFF and Venice at the same time. Everybody is really fighting for a place and fighting for attention, just like they love to do. And let's just go through a couple of the highlights of the competition films and one that's out of competition and what that means, if anything, because people have a lot to say about a certain film being out of competition. So in context with awards and with Oscars, and not to dismiss things that are in the lineup, we've got a lot from Netflix. 3 films in competition. Kathryn Bigelow's A House of Dynamite, Noah Baumbach's J. Kelly, and Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. And they had skipped Venice entirely last year and are now going in full force. Just to start right off there, Sophia, what's your take on this very Netflix-friendly lineup?
That was the first thing I noticed really about the Venice lineup. And I think that we were thinking about too, which is that Netflix has a lot of titles this year. We're only talking about 3 of them here, but still 3 of them being in competition is really big. And I think the thing that comes up often when we talk about Netflix in the awards race is how do they choose what their film is or where their big players should go? Does that happen organically for them, or do they anoint something and then ride it out with that movie, like The Power of the Dog, where they took that everywhere? That was their big player that season. Or in the year like they had with All Quiet on the Western Front, does that just emerge later on as the movie that everyone likes? I think looking at this list, we can sort of, I think, guess where certain things might fall for them. I think in my mind, Frankenstein will be a huge player just because of where it's going to end up. We already know it's also going to Toronto as well, and having the pedigree of the cast and crew there. And of course, Guillermo del Toro will make it, I think, a big contender for them. And also J. Kelly. Noah is no stranger to the Venice Film Festival, but also to a few others that we'll have throughout the season. And of course, George Clooney is starring in this. So it's a very, and Adam Sandler, Laura Dern, it's a very starry film. So those are the 2 that are emerging for me right now. But then they also have a few others that aren't even here. So I think that's really the big question mark. But yeah, Netflix, I think if you just look at the lineup, if you're thinking of the competition, we have a lot of Italian films, some new, I think, international feature contenders, another A24 film in The Smashing Machine, which we'll talk about, but it's a very Netflix dominant slate in competition.
It definitely is. Ryan, what's your take on these three titles specifically being Venice kickoffs?
Well, it's a big Netflix festival also because Venice likes to get the big auteur filmmakers, and that's who they have a lot here. I mean, from this season, you're talking about Guillermo del Toro, who's a multiple-time Oscar winner. You're talking about Noah Baumbach, who has had success on an Oscar campaign in terms of nominations with Marriage Story and had White Noise here before. And you're talking about Kathryn Bigelow and her long-awaited return for A House of Dynamite, which is, it's how long has it been since Detroit? Close to a decade since she's made a
Yeah.
film. And, and we don't know much about that film. We've only had like a couple stills and a little bit of information there, but it having a Venice release, it can go either way. It could be maybe a player and, kind of a shocking, a little shock to the thought process inside of Netflix, which is, I think that they have really two top contenders, and that's Frankenstein and Jay Kelly, and that's who's here. And then anything else that they have along the way is icing on the cake, because I feel like right now that's how they're sort of positioning those two. Like Sophia said, Frankenstein is going to be an enormous tech player. You look at not just Shape of Water and Pan's Labyrinth, but you then also look at something like Nightmare Alley. Those craftspeople that work with Del Toro have been nominated a ton. He even just is coming off of a campaign win for animated feature in the and while he didn't get a lot of text for that, clearly, won another Oscar there. But Bigelow's film is very interesting because it could be something, it's very political forward, and that movie could hit the zeitgeist right at the right time. I mean, everything right now seems to be very political with films. We're going to talk about it, probably another film that's missing from the festival lineups. That's a big title here that could have possibly been here that wasn't, that is political. But I'm curious about it and hearing about that film. It's not playing at TIFF, so it's only going to Venice. Maybe it goes to New York once we get that lineup out there. But is this for Netflix in a situation where they hope it turns into something, or is this the killer, where it's a genre-leaning film and it's great for the streaming platform and it's led by an auteur filmmaker? And because Kathryn Bigelow, she's one of the great people at making a thriller that we have out there. And so I'm really, I like a lot of this lineup. It does feel like it's missing one or two films, I have to say. The last couple of years, Venice has been the one where Sophia and Eric and myself and everyone that were around at Telluride were always like, God damn it, I wish I was watching that film. And you're like, why aren't we seeing this thing over here? Why do we got to wait? Not a lot of films here that I'm like desperately missing, or that I know that we will catch later in the season. And I'll be like, okay, yeah, we'll get to those. Not a lot of FOMO with this lineup, but a lot of interesting films and placements for sure.
Yeah, and I mean there will be some additions to come, but not that many. I mean, last year, like Baby Girl was a later addition.
Nothing huge.
But there's 21 titles in competition, and I think there was 22 last year. So we're not going to see a whole lot at that top tier level. But closing out the Netflix part of the conversation, it's always important to remember too that they cannot bring films to Cannes. They can buy them from Cannes, which they do now every year. But because of the release schedule requirements that France has and the festival has, they, until one of them budges, that can't be a proper kickoff for a film that they already have. And they did pick up two titles from Cannes, very, very lean for them this year. Nouvelle Vague, the Richard Linklater, which so far has not shown up anywhere else that we know of, but we know that it's going to.
No, it did. It showed up for Canadian premiere at TIFF.
Oh, did it? You're right.
That's how we know we're getting it at Telluride again.
That's right.
Wink,
right
wink,
in front
nudge,
of me.
nudge.
Listen to me. Good, thank you. But then Left-Handed Girl.
Nothing about that yet.
Wonderful film. Still a surprise pickup for me, considering the Sean Baker of it all and the theatrical element of it all. So
Well,
we'll
Neon
see
picked up
how.
every other film I can, so it's not like
And
they
that was
hadn't had
that was
any
the
money
issue
left.
right there. Neon and Mubi said, "Sorry, Netflix, we're going to eat your lunch at Cannes, so you can't buy anything." And they did, and those movies are going to be filtered throughout
But they didn't really
the
need to pick up
festivals.
anything crazy outside of maybe an
No,
international competition because this lineup is that they have of films. I mean, we're going to talk about it over at TIFF too. They have um, two films that are having one Canadian premiere, another world premiere in Wake Up Dead Man, and then the Ballad of Small Players Canadian premiere over there. They
yeah,
have this is not like last year where they had really Amelia Perez and a couple of like little smattering films that didn't do anything. They have a full usual slate of films, and it's going
yeah.
to be really fascinating because all of them can be contenders, and how they navigate that is going to be really fascinating to see.
Well, and speaking of neon and of international feature film, obviously Venice is a great jumping off point there, and we have the new Park Chan-wook, No Other Choice. That's going to be a major film, but Neon having so many international feature film potential contenders is something that I'm thinking about that they're kind of diluting their own chances there, unless they
Mhm.
think that they can get, like four or all five spots. It's worrisome a little bit. And I think what might be close to happening, and this is a very early, obviously, in this conversation, is sort of what Netflix and A24 have both run into, where they have so many titles that they simply can't give the attention that each of them need or deserve uh, in terms of campaigns and releases. So I don't know. I wonder what they're going to do with that. I think it will be very dependent on uh, what ends up with awards at Venice, which
Mhm.
could absolutely. If Park Chan-wook is the best director winner, there
Yeah.
we
Or
go.
if he wins the Golden Lion, and then it's like,
Exactly.
yeah. It's interesting too with Neon because I think the way I'm looking at it now is that, like, even though it was just an accident, which I keep calling a simple accident because that was the
It's
title when we
Because
saw it
it
at
was
that's what it should be called because it's a cleaner title.
a
I
great
I keep
title.
I yeah, and I loved that film and I know again like it won the big prize, but I think like where my mind is right now is I'm thinking, okay, what are the films that are going to play everywhere or going to play at a lot of different places and that also have potential in categories other than international feature and director and maybe picture. And for me at this time, really, those are The Secret Agent and Sentimental Value. I feel
Mhm.
like when those continue to play at festivals, like they're going to keep building buzz up. And I think it's been interesting because I think I've seen it was just an accident in a lot of predictions, and I understand why. But for me, I wouldn't be surprised to see that one fade a little bit more compared to those other two, just because of they have a higher ceiling, I think, with nominations.
Yeah, I think it would have to be a bit of a drive my car situation where it
Hmm.
would have to just dominate the major critics precursors to really,
Yeah.
and there's a lot to go around this year. So I don't know if that would really happen. Uh,
Those two other films as well too that Sophia pointed out, Sentimental
yeah.
Value and The Secret Agent, they have places like she said for acting noms, but also the flashy directions of both of those films,
Mhm.
and also those screenplays. The Secret Agent adapted screenplay is a little bit of a weaker category this year in terms of contenders. I believe that film qualifies for adapted screenplay, so and correct me if I'm wrong there. But I know Cinemil Value is an original screenplay and is a top tier contender for that as well. Wagner Moore is going to be in consideration for Best Actor. Renata Reinsva
Mhm.
and Stellan Skarsgård's going to be in there for their respective categories. And yeah, we know that those films are gonna be making the circuit, though, because usually those films over the last couple of years have gone to Telluride from Cannes, then they've gone to They've gone to TIFF, then they've gone to New York, and then they've gone to Mill Valley and Middleburg, and some have even gone all the way to AFI and played the entire season and had the passion for them throughout them. But also too, having a Palme d'Or behind you creates a sense of importance and creates a sense of, I need to see this at the festivals. And so it'll be interesting to see if once people over here start seeing it was just an accident, if it has that same love and attention that, Anatomy of a Fall or Triangle of Sadness or Nora had as well, or if it goes to those other two. But Park Chan-wook, I mean, I still have the bad taste of Decision to Leave in my mouth as a movie that I absolutely loved a couple years ago, and movie doing absolutely fucking nothing with it. But it's in a great place with Neon, and that teaser trailer looked incredible, and that poster is phenomenal. Beautiful. And it is, it's giving Parasite vibes. I
mean, the little log line and the mini synopsis, amazing.
It's like, it's phenomenal. So he's a director that is worth, I think, getting a chance to celebrate. Is so celebrated for his filmography. I'd love to see it, but again, like to your point, Eric, they have so many films. I wonder also if potentially something gets held and pushed to next year also as well on their slate. I don't know if they would be willing to do that, but I mean, that book that we're going to get of screeners is going to be huge. It's going to be bigger than my head at this point.
It's going to be something. Let's take a look at some of the other big Venice titles, both that we kind of knew were going to be there and then some of these out of competition ones too. Obviously, I think the biggest one here is Bugonia from Yorgos Lanthimos. The next collaboration with Emma Stone and Jesse Plemons, and it's based on a South Korean film, I think from 2013 or 3, something, I don't remember. That's a major title from Focus Features, and I don't know. It could just be like too wacky for its own good. I have heard some things to that effect, but we'll see. Focus Features is a wonderful campaigner. I think a big exciting title from this lineup is The Testament of Anne Lee by Mona Fastvold. And Mona Fastvold is the partner of Brady Corbet from The Brutalist, who kicked off that film's run here on the way to its Oscar wins. Amanda Seyfried, really crazy potential here. Semi-musical story of the beginning of the Quakers, female Christ-like figure. I don't know. What else could you want? It's, Mamma Mia meets, I don't know, Benedetta. What do we, it could be a lot.
I was just thinking of Benedetta when you gave your little description. And if it's anything like that, I'm really excited. Well, I'm really excited in general. I think also like it has a really great cast. Christopher Abbott is also in this. I love him. Daniel Blumberg is doing this score, and he did my favorite score from last year from The Brutalist. So very excited for the musical component of this. And again, like I think just to see Amanda Seyfried in this role, it just sounds really, really wacky and cool. And just the still that we have from it. When I saw that, I just said, I have to see this. It immediately rose to the top of my list of most anticipated.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan, what are your thoughts on Bugonia and Testament of Anne Lee?
Well,
which is undistributed at this right now.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised if A24 scooped that thing up. Most likely because of their relationship with Corbet, and
it just looks
Fastvold. It's very A24. It's very A24 for them.
They have a lot.
They do. They always do. I'm looking forward to that. I wasn't a big fan of Fastvold's last film, the World to Come. I thought that was, it was promising. It wasn't fully fulfilled. But then you see what her and Corbet just did with The Brutalist, both writing that screenplay and bringing that all together and that sort of epic vision that they both worked on hand in hand. It's kind of hard not to think that team coming back here again, her at the helm this time, wouldn't deliver something special. I've heard a lot about Tim Blake Nelson and his performance in this as well. So that is a sneaky, he was like the second build of that, which is really interesting, along with Louis Pullman and Christopher Abbott. Two smashes from this entire trio here that we can all agree on. I'm looking forward to that film. I think Sophia and I will be able to see that at TIFF, and very much look forward to that. Bugonia, I am on the camp that is thinking that this is going to be more of a kinds of kindness, killing of a sacred deer rather than his usual celebration. I think the Tony McNamara of it all is something that McNamara is able to hone in a lot of the weirdness, I think, that I found within Lanthimos' films and make them feel really universal, especially for voters, with Poor Things and with The Favorite. And he's such a fantastic writer of dialogue as well, too. This is a screenwriter that's, I think it's their first time, or it's a very limited time with, at least with Lanthimos. And I don't know, it just seems really weird and really out there. The trailer also, it just is giving, is giving the kinds of kindness vibe. I've heard I think maybe Plemons and Stone, because they love Emma Stone, just like Sophia, they love Emma Stone. And I think that maybe the acting is where it's at, sort of like maybe like The Master, where the acting performances are the thing that really are taken by the Academy, but then across the board, they can't go that far with it. So I was thinking a little bit of that, and I don't know if it's going to carry we don't know if it's carrying over or not to Telluride, and we know it's not going over to TIFF. So most likely we'll at least see it in New York. But
it's a very New York.
It's title. A very New York weird film. He's very New York friendly as well too. Most of his films have gone there.
His short even came to New York that year. Yeah.
You want to talk about that? No, I'm just kidding.
I actually didn't see it. I actually missed it. So
I'm also kind of like a little bit tired of Lanthimos and the Stone connection. It's not one of like the actor to director pairs I'm like looking and jonesing for. There's a couple other titles here I'm much more interested in the competition. And that, of course, if I can say one real quick, if you don't mind, is Laszlo Nimz's film Orphan is a film that I'm highly looking at as a film potentially that is non-neon that could break through international feature wise. And then, of course, the movie I think we're all here to talk about today. I'm here to talk about Benny Safdie's The Smashing Machine.
A movie I thought you were going to say father, mother, sister, brother.
No, I mean like Jim Jarmusch is... the wigs that Jim Jarmusch is like...
Explosion at the wig factory.
For real. Also, I know Jim Jarmusch to be just a guy that's like, he's going to get his movie in somewhere. We're going to see it. It's a good, nice 3.5, 3-star film that we'll all be like, we had some moments. And then we move on with our day and we go have like a Cobb salad or something. Benny Safdie, The Smashing Machine. I think that this movie is going to be something this season. I think it's A24's big player.
Oh, it's going to be something.
I think it's going to be the top tier contender to win the TIFF Audience Award.
Ooh.
And I think
over Rental Family.
Oh yeah, that.
We'll talk about
that. We'll get to that in a minute with Rental Family.
Fine.
But I do think that it is going to play really well. Barbero was very complimentary to Benny Safdie in this film, talking about the performances, and I believe this movie has the early contender for Best Supporting Actress in Emily Blunt. I almost said Emma Stone. Emily Blunt. All she needs is a crying scene and a yelling scene, and per that trailer, she's got both. So I think that she's a master campaigner, and I think that her and The Rock.
It was originally called Amy Adams in The Fighter.
Exactly, but people love her. I mean, people are already obsessing, trying to take photos of outside while they're doing Devil Wears Prada shoot at this moment. I think she's going to be all over the place. I think that her and The Rock are going to do tons of Q&As. Whether, or not The Rock gets in is something you could talk about, but I definitely think that she's one that could ride it all the way to an Oscar win. And that movie gets
you would say that Blunt has a better chance than Dwayne Johnson to get in?
Yeah, because she's been nominated before, so.
Yeah, barely and finally. I would definitely disagree with that. Yes, I agree that I think it's going to be a big
Mhm.
player. I think we are also.
But I think they both could get
I
in,
don't think we are
honestly.
prepared for
Yeah.
how insufferable Dwayne Johnson is going to
Oh,
be
that's the other thing too.
as a
It's like he's a
campaigner.
very insufferable. That's why
I
it
think
could
though
backfire on him.
he will be around though. That's the thing is he will be I think I can just see him at every round table doing Q&As like he's ready for that. And
People like
sometimes
him.
like whether you like the performance or not, if they're around, it doesn't really matter entirely. Like that can make a huge difference with voters. The smashing machine for me is interesting because Ryan, you said this, I can't remember if it was just a conversation we had or on a show, but one of the things about Benny Safdie that is interesting to me compared to Josh Safdie, if we're talking about Marty Supreme, is that Benny Safdie, we can guess that he's picked up some tips and tricks along the way,
Yep.
working with Christopher Nolan and PTA, huge names and voices, right, as directors. And this movie has right now, I think this is looking much more like an awards friendly player, right? In the Smashing Machine,
Hmm.
it's a sports story, it's a biopic. And, so is Marty Supreme, and we don't have a
Makeup
lot of information on
transformation.
that yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm wondering with Marty Supreme if that is where we see our classic Safdie's style come through, if that's really Josh, that good time, uncut gems, kinetic energy that just plays really well with certain audiences, a New York crowd in particular, and then the Smashing Machine is more of our, standard fare a little bit more straight down the middle. Not to say that it'll be bad. I think it's likely it could be really good, but it'll be interesting to see where they go and how they play. But based on A24's what they've said so far with festival announcements, this is the priority.
Yeah. Yeah. For
Yeah,
sure.
it definitely is, and it's coming out in October. Marty Supreme not till
Perfect time.
December. They're definitely and very strategically keeping these titles very separate.
Hmm.
But I know we've even spoken about this before that, I think we're going to see what also happened when the Coen brothers split of which part of a Coen brothers movie is in Joel Coen's and which part is in Ethan Coen's, because their styles have clearly been very, very different. So I'm excited for both just for that reason alone of
Yeah.
like what side of the brain is Josh Safdie and what side is Benny Safdie.
Eric, I got a question for you. If
Mm-hmm.
you, because I know that Sophia has it in one of her theaters near you, would you punch one of the smashing machines that they have available? Like they have like one of those like punch a bag things. Would you go and do that if and let us take a video of you doing that and put that
I
up
don't even know
online?
if I'm tall enough for those things. I probably have to punch up.
You're definitely tall enough. You could do it. I
I
saw it.
don't
I
know.
I really want to do it, but the line was crazy. Like people were just
I'm
crowding
telling
around it
you,
when I went. I
it's
really
gonna
want to do
be
it though.
it's gonna be a little bit of a surprise hit too, because you're bringing The Rock actually acting. It's got Blunt. They're gonna do Q&As. She's she was masterful on that Q&A campaign for Oppenheimer, part of that trio. They went everywhere. They were on every talk show, regardless of what you think of the performance. She got in. People love her. Yeah, it just seems like the kind of film that you're like, yeah, The Fighter, or it gives you weirdly it was like giving me like A Beautiful Mind vibes. I don't know why, or like Jennifer Connelly winning. I'm not saying it's winning picture. It's
Don't
like,
conjure that here.
no, I know, but I'm just saying like it's like it just seems like the perfect type of that's what the Academy kind of does performance too.
Mhm.
Even someone like Jamie Lee Curtis in a movie that they like absolutely love. Like it's a bad performance. She won for Delia Bobelia, for Christ's sake. If they like you, they're gonna give you an award regardless of all the other
Amelia
compet.
Bedelia.
Yeah, exactly.
You're
So
really conjuring up like the worst of the worst here.
I
So
I
I
want
don't
I
know how this
also
is helping
I'm also
your
just saying
case.
Well, I also know how much you didn't like Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer, and I kind of want this to happen to you because then you're going to have to deal with that the whole season. I don't
But see,
actually want it to
but
win.
that doesn't matter to me.
I
That doesn't
know it
matter to
will
me.
because you'll be so mad for like 6 months. You'll be so mad about it.
No, I won't be. I
It's
won't be
gonna
mad for
happen.
six
It's gonna be
minutes.
great. I can't wait for it.
Let's
All
close
the
out.
listeners are gonna be so
Let's
excited to
close
see it.
out Venice with some of the out of competition titles because there's actually a handful of them that are really, really exciting. Because we have new Gus Van Sant
Yeah,
with Dead Man's
wigs are
Wire.
wigging.
Lots of wigs in there too. The new Julian Schnabel in The Hand of Dante. So more Oscar Isaac on the way.
Martin Scorsese
And Martin Scorsese.
and Al
Yeah.
Pacino
Hot
and
off
like
his Emmy nomination.
who's the one person in the cast that we were like
We are not going to say the name.
Oh, okay.
So we're just not going to say the name.
I don't even
And
remember.
we're going to move on to the next.
Look it up, folks.
We're going to move on to the next. Because Luca Guadagnino's After the Hunt is premiering out of competition here. And that is the title that caused a lot of people to have a lot of thoughts about what it means to premiere out of competition and that it's lesser than, or trying to conjure reasons for it to have happened, even though they just know nothing. Just kind of want to like start pot stirring and shit talking. I don't think it is a any type of negative bellwether, and in fact, it's popping up at New York in a major spot too. So I don't really feel that there is a worthy or valid argument that it being out of competition is a ding to it at all. What do you think?
Yeah, it's hard to know, right? I think the biggest thing, like the first thing I thought of really was, okay, so Julia Roberts can't win the Volpe Cup. Like if
Yeah.
we're thinking about, okay, that can't be there, so then that it doesn't necessarily have to be something she collects on the path to Best Actress, but it would certainly help, I think, if she was in competition. I think sometimes also people forget that festival decisions are really made sometimes by directors, sometimes by studios of where something will go. And it's not necessarily an indicator of quality, whether something, ends up at a festival at all or out of competition or in a different section, like in Directors Fortnight or something at Cannes. Like there are a lot of reasons why this could happen. I think what's interesting about it being out of competition is that I think people have pegged this as, being Guadagnino's most like potentially audience or Academy friendly film and something that will really catapult him to his first Best Director nomination, a Best Picture nomination. And I've always been a little bit dubious of that just because of how his films have performed. I've always, I think, really thought of Call Me by Your Name as a big player, primarily because of James Ivory and his collaboration there. I think sometimes Guadagnino's films really live and die by their screenplays and their screenwriters. So, because this is also by a first-time screenwriter for a feature, I'm curious how that will really work for the film. The trailer definitely has me intrigued. I love an adult drama. There seems to be a lot of, things happening behind closed doors, shadowy whispers, academia, totally my environment.
Yes.
I love it, right?
Oh
That
my
is
God.
totally like the space I like to play in with my films. But I think if we're looking like at the possibility for this with awards, Guadagnino's track record so far, the MGM Amazon of it too, like that not being able to push challengers over the line, which is obviously, I think, a more youthful, less serious film that we need to talk about that a little bit. But out of competition, I think the last film, I was trying to think of Oscar contenders that emerge from Venice in a serious way, like above the line, possibly, Best Picture winners or, films that could compete on that stage. The last one I think that really came close was A Star is Born. So that
Yeah.
was a few years ago at this point.
Yeah.
And sometimes that out of competition slot is reserved for those big studio plays, and this is not that. So I'm curious why the decision was made, but I'm still excited to see it nonetheless.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, Challengers was also slated for out of competition before it moved.
Mm.
So that, also Amazon MGM. So that was a communal decision by Guadagnino and Amazon for whatever reason. But yeah, we'll see. Ryan, do you think that there is any clear path of out of competition being a slight against a title?
I mean, from the evidence that we've just shown that there is, I think that this movie is in trouble. Like, I think that that's not a good sign. But it also could be a good thing for it that it has the pressure of its off of its back of being in competition and it can just premiere on its own and maybe shock and surprise people. It being the opening night film at New York is very interesting as well too. That's the same placement that MGM and Amazon's real player in competition last year, Nickel Boys, was in, and they kicked off the festival like that. This film's got stars, so if obviously having Julia Roberts and Andrew Garfield and Io Debris at that festival is key to Venice and their success. But for MGM and Amazon not to have this in competition, it is interesting, because this is the same crew that went all the way to CinemaCon and we're touting this film in front of theater owners and talking about how big it was. And so it was a little shocking to then not want to put it up in competition a little bit. I mean, it's a stacked year. Any little, knock against something might, hurt its chances. But I thought the trailer looked kind of a little all over the place. I'm very much looking forward to the film because I love Luca, but I mean, his track record since Call Me by Your Name has been bleak in terms of the the Oscars, like Suspiria, Bones and All, Challengers, and Queer.
I mean, I want to interrupt because I want to say I'm talking about the quality of the film in versus simply.
Oh, I don't think that there's
contention.
I don't think that it matters about that. I think that like he
okay,
can.
But what I'm saying is that what it caused was people having conversations that it's out of competition based on the quality of the film.
I think that my thing is that there were a lot of people putting it at their number one position, and they were going out there as a certainty over others and saying, this is winning picture and he's winning director and he's winning screenplay and Julia's winning actress and da 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 da, and saying
that's a little bit silly.
And I think that what this shows is like they're not going like it. Let's hold off and wait and see a little bit. I think that might have startled a little bit above everybody, thinking that it was going to be this top 5 contender. It could easily still be in the 6 to 10 range. It could still easily be a good film, but it does kind of make me think like, okay, well, if Luca doesn't want to compete for this, how are they going to do when it comes to the Oscar campaigning? Which is a lot more of events and a lot more being out there in front of everybody. And he did not do a lot of that last year. He had 2 films and they did their press and Zendaya did her thing and Josh did a little bit of his, and that was it. They did not move that movie. And it was critically acclaimed. It was one of the best films of the year. Queer. They had Daniel Craig like knocking on the door of an actor nom, and they couldn't get him in, and because he was working on this. And he's always busy. So that's the other thing. He's always working on the next 1,000 projects he has. So you kind of wonder, like, is he just, I'm going to release this really interesting film? Does it get in by word of mouth? Because like in Gone Girl's year, it was not, there wasn't a solid 10. Well, maybe we could assume that it would have got into the 10 when you don't know. But that's kind of the comparison I think you can start looking at with this. And it's really, like Sophia said, it's going to come down to that script. Whether or not it's, in for people to see it. But I don't know. I don't think that it's like this is going to be the worst film. But it does bring up like, oh, well, that's a little disappointing that it's not going to be in the competition and Julia's not going to be up for actress. And, that takes off a little thing off of everybody's, like, well, she has this and this is how she gets an actress. Like it takes all that off.
I will add, though, as a New York City resident, that I trust Dennis Lim and the New York Film Festival selections. And I'm wondering too, like, if it might just be, and we have a few of these this season, a lightning rod for conversation and bad faith opinions or takes. Like, if you look at May,
Well, we know
December, that's
that's going to
another,
happen.
right, example with an opening night film that just kind of petered off a little bit and didn't make it all the way there, even though it was received really well. So
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think there are
even
a lot
Nickel
of
Boys.
comparisons. Yeah.
I mean, Nickel Boys got 2, and that was really it. It kind of was like the 9 or 10 in the categories last year. You know, I mean, and then like The Room Next Door and Blitz were the closing night in the centerpiece, and those did
Right.
nothing. So
And
you know,
yeah. Well, and talk about with The Room Next Door. That won the Golden Lion and
exactly,
didn't
and that
go
didn't
anywhere
mean
come
anything.
Oscar
You
season.
know,
It was a
yeah,
great film. So
yeah,
yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah. It's and I do think that by and large their opening night films uh are quite good and certainly have a lot of attention. But yeah, then you'll also have what the flag movie, Last Flag Flying, I think it was opening. Sure.
White Noise. White Noise
Mhm.
opened a couple of years ago. I mean,
Very
Yes,
divisive, but
very
I did
divisive.
enjoy
very
that one.
very
no, I
divisive.
loved,
Hmm.
I
But
love
that was
most of the
coming up
films
in
we've
competition
mentioned.
at Venice.
Yeah.
Yes, no, for sure. I love most of the films we mentioned. I'm just saying, like, you
Yeah,
know, and it all
Hmm.
translates
I
sometimes.
don't know. We'll see.
I think it's honestly a little bit better to be in competition for Cannes than it is for Venice. You know, and we've kind of seen that over the years. So
Yeah, I think that's fair. Um, let's take a look then at Toronto, which is in scope such a massive, almost ridiculously massive festival. Um, where there's like going to be 400 movies there, and tons of them won't have distribution, or we won't hear from again for a year or forever. It just sometimes that is just the case.
that's so
Uh,
true.
and that isn't meant as a slight. A lot of times, films that show at festivals really exist only in the festival scape, and they never make it to a proper distribution. But they'll have visibility for potential future projects. It just is a thing that happens. But I think we're going to focus on, with our bent being what it is, on some of the bigger titles. And once we are at the festivals, then we can discover more outside of that. But a lot of things that are kind of only Toronto so far, which is ticking around in my head a little bit. And I mean, obviously, Wake Up Dead Man so far is a huge premiere. It's going to be a massive deal, just like Glass Onion was. Um, Rental Family, which is the one I mentioned earlier, that I think is winning the People's Choice Award. That is Brendan
I think
Fraser,
that's our next
directed
goal
by
wins.
Hikari. It could be. It could be. Absolutely.
That movie looks so generic and plain. It looks like a TV movie.
You don't even know what it looks like because the only thing you've seen from it are the fake ads in the movie.
Yeah. And
So
if that's the
that
quality
isn't
of film
even,
that's coming, good Lord.
no, you're full of shit. You're trying to make a judgment on something that isn't even the movie.
It's part of
Because
the campaign.
you already want to hate it, so you're already there.
Looks bad.
You look bad.
It's also from an unproven director too. We don't know. The only thing that's about it that we really can say anything is that it's got Brendan Fraser in it. It's really
Oh
all
my
that you can say
God.
about it.
You're
Yeah.
too
I will
predictable.
say, I think I am still salty with Brendan Fraser after The Whale.
Also, to be fair, if you're gonna like say, "Oh well, Brendan Fraser, they love him," well, they didn't love his movie the last time they nominated for Best Picture, so there's no saying that this one's gonna get it either. I mean, it looks pretty generic.
Okay.
Sounds
It
pretty
All
is.
generic.
right.
The one thing I will say about this, though, is that that caught my eye and that I think we should talk about through the season is just what Searchlight has and what they're doing.
Mhm.
Because it could be one of those cases where it's just like, oh my God, I almost forgot the name of the movie just now. A Real Pain.
A pain in my ass.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what Sophia was saying during that supporting actor run last year. A pain in my ass.
Yeah. But it's just curious what Searchlight even really has on the table this year. And
Mhm.
they're good at campaigning too. So if this is really their big player, I think we could really see it be successful. I'm not willing to, I think, say yet that I think it's going to be the audience award winner. Um, but I could see it taking off.
Some
There are some,
studios have rough
there are
years
just,
too.
yeah, and there's some on the list though
Absolutely.
that I just see and I think like, well, we also, could consider other big emotional plays because I think like one of the things about Rental Family is just looking at the topic, what it's about, knowing I think Brendan Fraser, how and his past work and everything, it'll be, I think, emotional. But also you have something like The Lost Bus, the Paul Greengrass movie that Jamie Lee Curtis is going to be out there singing songs about probably, as she's
And she was out there on the Freaky Friday, like red carpet, talking about
yeah.
how Freaky Friday is the movie to help everyone get through the forest fire aftermath. And you're
hmm
like,
yeah.
good Lord, man,
I'm
this
just
woman
saying
knows
it's
the
like
campaign.
She was
yeah,
just making that connection
She
to
was
the
just
Lost
turning
Bus.
that bus. You know what I mean?
turning the bus. And then I think there's also, I think a lot to it too, if other films we've seen them, recognized at other festivals already. People at TIFF
Mhm.
might want to just say, you know what, I love Sentimental Value too, or I love It Was Just an Accident, or The Secret Agent. They just kind of know if it's already been anointed. So it's difficult to tell how people vote, or it might just be Wake Up Dead Man, right?
Or it
Like they
might be
might just love that,
Frankenstein
right?
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they love Del Toro. I mean, last year's winner is
hmm
purely from a fan standpoint. It's not from a quality of film standpoint. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
People that got in there, they love Flanagan and they just gave it to him regardless of, the quality of that little film,
I still haven't seen that. I still need to see that.
You don't
Um,
need to. It's horrible.
okay. Well,
I
Rental Family will
wanted
be interesting.
But then they had him. But
yeah,
to Sophia's point, last year, the the two awards after Life of Chuck went to Honora and Amelia Perez.
mhm.
So that always depends on the number of screenings and and all some of that stuff too, and
It's
when it premieres.
I think it's one of those things that I have thought a lot less about than I used to, and that is the importance of that, because then we hang on. Oh my God! Well, this movie had 9 screenings versus this movie which had 4, and
hmm
that becomes it's like an overriding factor that doesn't always mean
No, I
anything.
think it's a factor. I don't think it's the factor. I think also like when it premieres in the festival also helps it too.
Well,
So
sure. Anything in the first half of a festival
it's big.
has
Yeah,
a lot of attention,
yeah,
especially if your festival is very, very long.
yeah.
And it is an 11-day festival, like Cannes is. So yeah, it's a trudge to go from first day to last day. Um, a couple of other titles that have only showed up so far also include Christie, the Sydney Sweeney starring boxer movie about Christy Martin, which, pretty uninspired title after all of the untitled, Christy Martin biopic of it all. But yeah, at the same time, I I don't hate it as a title. It said, it could be just like, Fight for Your Life or some Diane Warren sounding, song title.
The
But
Smashing Machine.
exactly, that would have been hilarious.
Somebody get Sydney Sweeney in the Rock in the Ring right now. Like
I
get the
Actors on
campaign going.
actors.
If they are
Actors on
not
actors, you better do it.
exactly, they're going to be together. There's no way. Yeah,
God, talk
call it
about
now.
the hot air in that room. Good
Call it
Lord.
now. There's also right after her big return last year with Maria, Angelina Jolie is already back in Couture. I don't really know what to think of
Oh,
that. Again, not a distributed film yet. Christie is not as well, but Toronto is a great place to get picked up, and it's a great market. And if you are a studio without a Best Actress contender, this is usually the place where it can happen. So there's potential there. I'm not really thinking too much about Roofman or Roofman, Roofy, whatever.
More like
that
Rough
Channing
Man.
Tatum movie is. Absolutely not thinking anything about that. That is, what is it? Pool Man vibes? Is that what you said, Sophia?
I thought of the title of Pool Man.
Yeah.
But I will support Kirsten Dunst in
Always.
anything. So
Always.
Yeah.
She watches all the films, so she is.
She does.
She's
a member of the Academy.
Yeah.
Well, they all have to now. You know.
There is also Nuremberg, Russell Crowe and Rami Malek and Michael Shannon. I don't know what to think about that either.
From James Vanderbilt.
It's got a November release date. There is going to be a push behind it.
Who's got that?
Oh my God.
James Vanderbilt,
Sony Pictures Classics,
and the writer of Zodiac, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
that's what James Vanderbilt.
There are some bona fides that are really interesting. Yeah. If it ended up being just Michael Shannon getting nominated and everybody else not, I'd be okay with that.
I've already seen the photo of Russell Crowe in the outfit, and I got to tell you, that's got like Razzie nomination written all over it. But
I was surprised this wasn't at Telluride. Honestly, like it didn't get a different premiere distinction at first. I thought
a little bit with your heart over your head
there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It kind
Sony
of
Pictures Classics though always has a
presence,
they do.
They always have like
what they would go with.
They love Telluride. Yeah, that's
cool. They're going to have a few things there that are going to be worth our while. Mm-hmm. All right. Do we want to talk a little bit about some of these designations, like we mentioned throughout, because Toronto has Canadian premieres, North American premieres, international premieres, and then obviously, of course, world premieres. And these give us the little telltale signs of things to come, whether it's potentially New York or whether it is Telluride. And so a handful of these titles, some that have already played elsewhere, The Secret Agent, Sentimental Value, It Was Just an Accident, Nouvelle Vague, all Cannes premieres are going to be Canadian premieres here. So I think that tells us what we need to know about a place like Telluride. But then also Ballad of a Small Player, which is another Netflix title. And I think that tells us what we need to know there as well. But looking at some of the other designations, what are you thinking about, each of you? Something like the Smashing Machine doing Venice and Toronto, and skipping something like Telluride, or Testament of Anne Lee skipping Telluride, or Dead Man's Wire skipping Telluride.
I think that the Smashing Machine doing that kind of maybe proves that one's going in the later part of the schedule for Venice and then going over to Toronto. I think that Frankenstein's the same way. So I would honestly expect Jake Kelly to possibly, out of the Venice titles, to make the transition from Venice to Telluride. And then the House of Dynamite might just be maybe New York, or maybe it might just be Venice, and that's it. Kind of like or maybe it goes to New York because that's what the Killer did.
I think your comp of the Killer for this makes the most sense.
Yeah, it really does.
Feels like that. It feels like a thriller that isn't going to do much more than be like a really big Netflix title. I think
is Focus. If I'm not mistaken, as Hamnet. They have a Canadian premiere date here, so we can all assume that we shall see that Chloe Zhao return to Telluride. I mean, her last film, or her last non-Marvel film, Nomadland, had the outdoor screenings in like the drive-in out there for Telluride at the special event in Los Angeles, if I'm not mistaken. And she has been a friend of the festival for years. And so it's not surprising there. Should see that in that cast. I mean, Ballad of a Small Player. It's burger season again. Everybody get those smash burgers out there, because smash indeed for Colin Farrell. If you've seen that photo, my lord. And
yeah, they're going to get Plain Jane out to sing Burger Finger for it.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
They had oh my God. That's where Conclave kicked off last year for him, and then they took that to I think that was Focus as well too, and then they took that to TIFF, and then went all the festivals. I think Netflix is following suit with that. So yeah, I think that it kind of tells you a little bit about, like, after the hunt, skipping both Telluride and TIFF signals, like, I think the kind of film that's in the audience that's aiming for, which is good for it, it's, I think that there's a little bit of like strategy in play for the last couple of years. We've seen some of these films go to every single place. And I'm thinking of like Amelia Perez a little bit last year, and even Maria to New York, for the fact that like Maria played bad at one fest and goes to another fest and plays well, and then it survives at another. And then Amelia started off strong at Cannes, and then it did well at Toronto and Telluride, and then completely falls flat in New York. And I think people are like, maybe the whole run isn't the way to go for some films, and yet some studios like Neon are like, Cannes, TIFF, Telluride, New York, we know how to do this, because the international films are the ones that I think survive the most in doing that, rather than for the most part. So I don't know. I think that I don't think there's anything crazy that's happened in terms of paths yet.
Yeah, I don't either. And we're going to do, an extensive Telluride podcast in August. But
we fully know that one. Yeah.
But it's great to kind of talk around it, and obviously, based on these designations, we know the things that we know, like Sound of Falling and Seurat, both Cannes winners, skipping and going to TIFF, which I think makes sense. Very interesting. Both very New York titles as well.
Very, yeah. Well, I think in Sound of Falling, I am wondering if, because Nickel Boys, I think it was warmly received to some extent at Telluride, but a lot of people also thought that might not have been the right place to premiere it. And Sound of Falling, well, like, I can draw a lot of parallels just in style between those two films and how they use point of view. And it just feels, I think, like much more of an international festival like Cannes and then a New York. So I'm curious how that will play at Toronto. But I think another thing I was thinking about with these Toronto titles is just what's not here. Also, curiously, right? Like Bugonia, for me, not being here was interesting, because I feel when I think of Focus, knowing that Hamnet will have that world premiere status at Telluride, is also going to TIFF, and isn't going to be released until later in the season, right? It's going to be much later, near winter time. So that, I think, also could play at New York and a number of regional festivals. So what does that mean for a movie like Bugonia? I think for me, that pretty clearly signals that it's not their number one necessarily, but that could also just be wishful thinking, because I'm more excited for Hamnet than Bugonia. Also,
yes.
on the Focus train, Anemone, the Ronan Day-Lewis film, obviously top of mind for me. Daniel Day-Lewis's return to the silver screen. Where is that? It is nowhere. TIFF, I think, to me, felt like a place for it to world premiere. They're very friendly to, celebrity children, actors turned directors here. It could have been, right, like Maude Apatow's film is premiering here. So that, to me, it felt like a place maybe for it. But maybe it skips festivals altogether. I don't know. But it was interesting.
I think there's a handful too, so that we can kind of close out and make this a relatively brisk podcast. There's a handful of things that are nowhere so far. Obviously, the biggest name of that list would be One Battle After Another,
Mhm.
which, lots of rumors about where it might have shown up or could have shown up. Very interesting that it hasn't. But then, a few small titles, but of films that I think we might have seen at least a Toronto kickoff at the Sea with Amy Adams. Mother Mary, which now sort of feels like it's going to be a Sundance kickoff. I don't know. There's something feels
Sundance, really?
Yeah.
I'm gonna cross my fingers for Telluride.
Yeah, I was gonna
That
say
would be a gag, and I would hope for that because I want to see Anne Hathaway.
Well, I will say to Sophia's point about Telluride, last year when we saw Honora, the person that moderated the Q&A after that was none other than Mr. David Lowery himself. So clearly a friend of the festival would be a wild get. But a film that I already believe is wrapped and ready to go because Hathaway's already shooting other things. So would be very interesting to see that movie land over at there for sure. And A24 has a good relationship with Telluride.
It is another A24 title, so we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I'm curious about that. And speaking of your favorite film, Next Goal Wins, there is the new Taika Waititi. I keep wanting to call it Klarna and the Sun.
I'm gonna watch it in installments.
Yeah. So exactly. So who knows what's happening with that?
Bradley Cooper's
Ella
film?
McKay, the James L. Brooks, yes. And on the Searchlight conversation, is this thing on, which is Searchlight, who don't really have much. They have The Roses, which is coming out the day that Telluride starts. So best of luck with that.
Good for them.
And
Tony McNamara, speaking
family.
of. Yeah.
And I still can't really get it out of my head that Springsteen Delivered Me From Nowhere is a 20th Century Studios film and not a Searchlight film because it feels like a Searchlight.
I'm sure the people that are over at Searchlight are going to be helping them out on the campaign with that.
Well, yeah, they're all together, but it feels like that. So
that movie feels like we know where. I think we have a feeling where we know where that movie is going to go, and
yes,
and the Waititi film, okay, come out next year, please.
Sure. I mean,
keep delaying it. Do what they do in Next Goal Wins. Just delay.
Yeah.
And,
yeah, I mean,
but the Cooper one is interesting because we have nothing about that.
Speaking of a friend of the festival, Scott Cooper is a friend of Telluride. So yes, so it showing up there obviously makes sense. Not at Toronto makes sense because it feels perfect for a New York announcement, and then they can bring Bruce Springsteen right over across the river, and there you go.
Yeah, I was feeling more like a late August, early September screening and then New York, but
I don't know if that'll go to New York, honestly, unless it's a special thing.
Yeah, because they could tear it apart. Honestly,
they're not really kind to movies like that necessarily. I mean, I haven't seen it, but a more, I don't know, like a biopic like that, I'm not so sure.
I wonder.
Maybe a special screening, but not like an actual New York screening to that.
Yeah, but it would be a little odd to only show up at Telluride and nowhere else.
But honestly, they might not just premiere it anywhere.
It might not. We might just be, talking into the wind.
Or what if it did like AFI and Telluride? I don't know. Where's Ellen McKay go? Does that go to maybe AFI? That feels like an AFI. That's where all the old directors go, evidently. Zemeckis and Eastwood last year, Yeah,
I don't know what to make of
I'm not sure.
Ellen McKay and not even having, an image or anything. So,
but to answer your thing about One Battle After Another, because they, in light of us figuring out earlier in the week that wasn't going anywhere outside of like the next to 0% chance of it going to Telluride. They have gone full steam ahead. There's like 900 trailers out now. The posters are out. They've got Leo and the cast making the rounds already. Like it's full steam ahead. And so
can't wait to see Leonardo DiCaprio doing TikTok dances. That's going to be
great. Can't wait to see
Sean Penn doing a little TikTok dance for one battle after another.
Sean Penn on Fortnite will be great. And
in all seriousness, I could see Leo later in the season or even early doing what he did with Killers, which is trying to put a lot of the focus on his female co-stars.
Jason
who are
Frazee.
less well known, right?
Yeah. I could see that. And I could also see, once again, like the movie looks really good. I think we all are very positive on the things that we've seen so far. We've all heard some things mostly good. I'm looking forward to it. I still think it's a top tier contender. It wasn't one of those where it's like, oh, it didn't show up, like, because PTA's films over the last couple of go rounds have not hit the festival circuit. Phantom Thread didn't, Licorice Pizza did not, and this movie, if it does even just a smidge well, caps off a really great year for Warner Brothers. And then we can have that Sinners and One Battle After Another discussion for another time. But we're getting all the first looks, and it looks funny, and it looks like a movie that might, while all these films are premiering at the festivals, might be one that's dominating the conversation outside of it.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah.
So I want to go ahead.
My piece on PTA quickly.
Okay.
I think all I'll say right now, because we'll talk about this for a while, is that you have no reason to doubt Paul Thomas Anderson. And if you're doing backflips, to doubt him right now, it's pretty obvious that you're trying really hard to keep him out of the conversation. And he has 11
Calm down,
nominations.
Benson Boone.
Yeah, Benson Boone, calm down.
Yeah, exactly. I do want to close with asking each of you of the titles, all the titles at Venice and Toronto, what is the single one that you are most looking forward to? Only one.
Sophia, you want to go first?
Sure. Okay, one. This is hard. I'm just gonna say Hamnet. I can't wait. Chloe Zhao, Paul Mescal playing Shakespeare. I'm excited to see the Jessie Buckley performance. Read this book, so I'm excited to see how it's adapted. And I think it will just be a cool Telluride world premiere. I know we're not talking about Telluride, but it'll be a TIFF also. But I'm really looking forward to that one.
And Ryan.
Holy shit, this is tough. Sophia's made this great point the last couple of days where it's hard to not think of anything outside of One Battle After Another, because it's like, Jesus Christ, like that's the movie Sophia and I want to see the most, and it's like we'll scorch everything off the planet until we can get that. But and then also like Weapons is coming up, so I'm like really in the Weapons mode right now. But I would say I'm really interested in two Netflix titles, but I'll whittle it down to one. Frankenstein, I think is the one for me. I think, last time we saw Del Toro, he made a movie that he'd been wanting to make for such a long time. It was very personal to him. This is his other passion project that he's been wanting to make. I thought the trailer looked really good. I'm really hoping and praying out there, if you program TIFF out there and you're listening to this, Sophia and I would like to see that on the IMAX there. I think that would be rad as hell to see that big movie up there, and also just to be around Oscar Isaac. But also, clearly it's also Wake Up Dead Man. Yeah, who doesn't have fun doing those movies?
Sure,
right?
But your choice is Frankenstein.
Yes.
All right. Well, it will come to nobody's surprise that my choice is Hamnet.
Oh my God.
Absolutely.
For Jessie Buckley fan over here.
Everybody, yes, as the resident Joe Alwyn and Emily Watson fan, that is why I'm so excited for Hamnet. No, it's obviously.
Is Emily Watson in it?
She is. She
Wow,
is Jessie Buckley's mother.
That just made me really
very
happy.
Small role. Very small.
Okay.
Well,
there are no small roles.
Depending on what the adaptation is. That's the thing that I'm the most curious about, because there is, and especially like the first third of the book is description and prose. There is so little to no dialogue.
Brought to you by
So
Ambien.
I'm very, very curious to see how the adaptation works. They don't even refer to Shakespeare by name. So
I call him Willie S.
Even though the prose is Agnes yells out her husband's name. I want to see how that happens. I want to see how it works. And, having read the book as well, there are two sequences in like the middle of the film and the very, very, very last one that I was like talking to somebody about it and I could barely even like keep my composure because they're so emotional. They're so incredible. So I just want to see the result. And I'm just so excited for
That Chloe Zhao.
Chloe Zhao.
She knows how to make movies.
If she pulls off the ending, people are going to be weeping walking out of the Herzog.
It's going to be the best ending of the year if that happens.
Medallion time.
Here we go.
Here we go.
All right, cool. Well, let's wrap it there. And like I said, we will do an extensive Telluride preview and predictions podcast soon in August, right before we all take off for Telluride. And Ryan, please tell everybody where they can find you.
Sure. First off, two other titles we didn't mention. I'm really looking forward to the Olivier Assayas Putin movie with Jude Law playing Putin. That's going to be wild.
Yeah.
And then
did you say Assayas?
Yeah, right. That's Assayas. Whatever. I don't know how you say his name.
Assayas.
He's got that other movie coming out. Speaking of like the one that came out of Berlin last year that like nobody remembers, and then also The Christophers, a third Steven Soderbergh movie in 1 year. And we didn't even mention that. Looking forward to that. That sounds
I can't see that title without thinking of
Christopher Robin.
No, The Sopranos, and calling it The Christophers.
The Christophers.
Want to call it The Christophers.
Got some gabagool. Anyway, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, Blue Sky, Ryan McQuade 77 if you like podcasts. We have the Director Watch podcast. This week we had the Starship Troopers episode, and it was a lot of fun. And the Verhoeven series has been wild and crazy, and
it's a good series.
It's been really fun. He's a wackadoo
filmmaker. How could it not be a good
series?
Like
like Tony Scott last summer, Verhoeven this summer. It feels like when we have a summer series, we like to go crazy. So go and listen to that. 5 stars, iTunes, Spotify, over on the website, sign up for the newsletter. Eric puts that together when he can.
Yes. And what do we have coming up? Because I'm, you run this podcast. I don't even know what our next week's going to be.
Well, the next week is episode 300. Because this was $2.99, and on episode 300 we will be doing a retrospective over the year 1990.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I guess I should study up on that if I'm going to do
that. If you hadn't listened to it already, we have a review, a podcast review with myself and Griffin Schiller up on the website for Fantastic Four First Steps. So go listen to that.
And Sophia, where can everybody find you?
Your bit about the Christophers reminded me that to recommend The Sopranos because I'm rewatching the whole series right now for the first time since college, and I've been really, really enjoying it. It is just the best. But you can find me on Twitter, Blue Sky, Sophia_Sim, Letterboxd, Sophia Sim. You can find reviews, interviews, more podcasts at AwardsWatch.
Absolutely. And you can find me at awardswatch.com and on socials at awardswatch everywhere except for Twitter, which is awards_watch. And that is it for the Venice and Toronto festival wrap up of the lineup. But we will be back. More festivals. We didn't really talk about Oscar predictions, kind of sidestepped it a little bit, but I think that's okay. Next time we'll do it. I promise we'll do it. But thank everybody for listening. Goodbye.